everyone. This podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, I'm David Bell.
I'm Tom Reimann.
I'm Marina Reimann.
I'm Jane Addams.
And we just saw Quiet Place.
We just watched A Quiet Place.
We just watched. That's our brand.
It would help with if you were consistent with the brand, you piece of shit.
A Quiet Place is about a family that has to live as silently as possible, or else horrible things happen. Whatever is hunting them is everywhere.
A massive invasion.
It's all throughout the world. There's nowhere to go.
I think this is going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, we have three mics.
A few times. We have 3 mics. We have 4 people.
Yeah.
We all saw it. What did people think about this movie?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was extremely stressful.
This is why it's going to be an interesting episode. I did not care for it.
What?
I did not care for this movie, you guys.
It pissed me off. I'll agree with you on that. It really irritated me. Step 1, no fucking babies. No condoms,
Right.
people. Condoms for $69. Anything.
Let's say you're in the apocalypse. There's a few basic things to do. Don't have babies. Don't have babies.
No.
Close doors.
Yeah.
Close doors.
Yeah. So every time the big scary monster creature got in there, I had this conversation with myself about how maybe lock your doors. But I assume at some point during those days we didn't see doors became ineffective.
Yeah, it was able to tear its way through grain silos. I don't think a door would have stopped it. However, they did have way too much bullshit. They had so much clutter, so much noisy shit.
Yep.
There was a lot of bric-a-brac.
They had plenty of sand. Jim was just pouring sand.
Jim had all
everywhere.
kinds
Where's he
of
getting
sand.
all that sand?
I don't know.
Any kind of public works is going to have sandbags for floods and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also near a river. I'm not hung up on those details.
I am hung up on the river. If they were within walking distance of the river
Just
and
stay
there
by
was
the river.
Just stay by the river.
build a small shack by that river.
Live under the waterfall.
Also, if
Build
you're
a secret cave behind that waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, if you're smart enough to know you need a diversion, and you've wired your property, just put up speakers. Don't have rockets. You don't need rockets. Just loudspeakers. You just flip a switch. You divert them. My main issue with this movie is I was constantly thinking of smarter things the characters could have been doing, and it felt like they needed to keep doing dumb things to make the story work. Like it's a movie. I expected this movie be about something deeper because it's about people who can't talk and can't express themselves verbally and can't make noise. So I thought, okay, there's going to be a psychological aspect to it, but it's just that. And so it's just, okay, these characters can't make noise. Guess what's going to happen? They're just going to keep doing things that make noise, and then the monsters come. And there's not much more to it.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but they did make a lot of stupid decisions. Having a bunch of bullshit in their house is a stupid thing. Having a baby post-apocalypse is a stupid idea.
Kid falls into a silo randomly.
Yeah, but all that said, I feel like if you're in a prolonged crisis situation and you have small children, the drive to normalize the situation as much as possible is a pretty strong, understandable instinct. You try to be a normal person, right? So having a bunch of decorations in your house to try to feel normal is understandable.
I guess, but for me, it's unforgivable to put your kids' lives in jeopardy like that. I mean, it's great to try to be normal. It's also great to survive because all these things that happened were avoidable. Like the fucking, who pulls and pulls and pulls on a sack of laundry when it gets hung up on something when that sack is obviously going to tear at best, or at worst, this nail thing pops up.
Yeah, there's a point in the film where Emily Blunt's carrying laundry upstairs and the bag gets caught on a nail and she pulls the bag to get it free and it just makes the nail be standing straight up like a perfect booby trap, and she totally Home Alones the shit out of herself on that nail.
Yeah.
And then it's just up for the rest of the nobody ever repairs that nail.
No.
Something I did really appreciate about this movie, though, is that like every time there's like a Chekhov's gun situation, it pays off within a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Like you don't wait the entire movie like, oh, I bet that nail is going to come back in an hour and a half. It's like 5 minutes later,
No, it's
the nail is immediately
Yeah.
a problem. Yeah.
I was expecting like them to keep stepping on the nail or something, it just to be a continuous problem.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they didn't address the nail after it happened, I was just like, oh, they better not keep stepping on that fucking nail.
Also, who nails a nail like that? Like, why was it up?
I don't know.
And it was clearly bent at some point, but who does that?
It doesn't make any sense for where it was. It was in the middle of the step, not on either the connecting parts.
There's nothing for
It's
that
a single
nail to
piece
do
of
there.
it's not fastening it to anything. That nail didn't make any sense where it was on the step. But
A lot of things.
oh well.
I know we're skipping around the plot. Jim Halpert
Sorry,
builds
guys.
that bunker that's like soundproof, which seems like the first thing you
Why
do.
weren't they living in there?
Yeah,
Okay,
you'd make a
that made
soundproof
sense to me too.
bunker,
It made
but-
sense that you wouldn't test the bunker until you needed to if you
disagree.
had scary sound creatures.
I would test the bunker instantly, because otherwise you have no idea if your contingency plan is going to work.
But he gets out of that bunker after he makes sure she's safe, and then he gets out and walks away, and it immediately a bunch of rushing water shows up.
Yeah, where did
And
the
it's like,
water come
"Didn't
from?"
Notice the water, huh,
I
Jim?"
assume he turned it on to distract from baby crying, and then just left it on because he's thinking about going and getting the kids.
That's worse
Did we see
because
him
he
turn it
floods the
No.
Yeah.
bunker.
Okay.
And so this is sort of my issue. Is the first thing that happens is that little kid in the store, and he takes. I'm just gonna keep calling him Jim. Jim takes the batteries out of little Jim Halpert's toy, and then the teenager like gives the batteries back. And the first thing I thought was like, well, that's stupid.
No, she didn't give the batteries back. She left
Oh, the
the
little
batteries.
kid takes the
Kid
batteries.
took the batteries. Yeah.
And nobody
What-
saw him
what
take the
shocks me
batteries.
is that the parents didn't take the batteries with them. Batteries are a useful commodity when the apocalypse is upon you.
That's a good point. I mean, I didn't think of that. And
Also, letting the little kid be last in line.
Yeah.
You start with one parent, you end with one parent.
These
And you
were-
can see, that's rules when you're not in an apocalypse situation.
right, these were all little things that was like bugging me about the way these characters acted throughout the movie.
But that's also like you had the scene where Emily Blunt realizes that she fucked up and should have been carrying the kid too. So like
Right.
it's a flaw, but it's a flaw that the characters come to realize
Way too late because they're bad parents throughout the movie. They are bad.
they are
parents.
not great
400
parents.
They
days
never-
to come to that realization.
Yeah, their kid dies because it makes too much noise, and they're like, "Let's have another."
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it wasn't
I'm
a
certain
choice.
that wasn't
Yeah,
planned.
but like,
But there are ways to. Jane and I were talking about this. There are ways to not have a baby. Accidents happen, but giving head, it's awesome. 69.
Okay. All right. Okay. We all know that there are ways to
we
have
all
sex
know
that
that
don't
giving
involve.
head is awesome.
But I'm saying
Reproducing
that there are ways that
children.
It's satisfying to women too. It's
Sure. Sure.
am I making you uncomfortable?
Let's not linger on this point. No, my mom listens to this.
You are blushing
Oh,
so much,
hi,
and
Tom's
it's
mom.
adorable.
Hi, Tom's
Sorry,
mom.
Carrie.
All right.
Yeah, so the characters were dumb. Then the creatures were inconsistent.
In what way?
Well, the kid makes the noise, right? And the creature immediately comes out of the woods, right? And every time someone makes noise, like that guy screams in the woods, a creature immediately shows up. So that stands. I understood that as, oh, okay, they're quite close a lot of these times. The raccoons on the roof, and then they jump off and they make a lot of sound, and then the creature kills the raccoon. So it's like, okay, creatures are nearby. She drops that glass. That's when suddenly it's a problem. And then, like at the end, when they're outside of the silo and Jim's got his kids and they're hugging, and the creature is just there, still attacking, and they're not making noise. And he says, "Run to the truck." And it's like, why not just be quiet and walk? Because that seems to work, and they seem to always be in close proximity. So what is it? Like, can they hear them if they're quiet? Can they not hear them if they're quiet? It seemed like they just heard them when they needed them to be heard.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think we see that they're incredibly fast.
Yeah.
They only show up when a noise has been made. They're in the area at that point just because they've been fucking going gangbusters and making noise all over the place.
Right.
So like hanging around, they're like, I fucking know something's here.
Yeah, and I guess if you like try to hurry back away from them, you might trip on something and fall. Or
But why did they were in a clearing at that point in the cornfield? I mean, that's just again a
on the road.
character doing what I consider a dumb thing.
Like running into the cornfield. Jesus, I'm kind of shocked that the kid did that.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that.
little kid.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
the characters are panicked. I mean more
I
like when
think-
they're out of the silo.
The kids are the smartest characters.
And he
in
tells
the
them to
movie.
go to the truck.
The kids are
Yeah,
the
the-
only ones thinking with their heads on straight.
the deaf girl was definitely the smartest character.
But she does go
Was
off
she?
on her. She goes off on her own.
She goes off on her own and sleeps in the forest and kind of really dooms her mom there.
Yeah, but she's like an angry
Because she's
teen.
pouty and mad.
And then the mom.
She's an angry teen, but like
Is
when
that
she
the smartest thing?
when she tried to like figure shit out, she was the only character who like figured shit out.
She was the only character who had the tools needed to figure that out. Nobody
Right.
else can hear her
I guess
hearing
that's
aid.
true.
Didn't figure it out until it saved her life twice instead of immediately being
3
like,
times.
Holy shit, I'm alive!
Yeah, I would like to explore that. That's jumping straight to the end. It turns out we find out the creature's weaknesses. The weaknesses are high pitched noises
Yeah, high frequency sound.
and shotguns. And it made me wonder, why is this a problem in the first place too? Because it felt like those were things that, like, I know it's sort of suspension of disbelief. We have to accept that this is the world because it's no fun otherwise. But like, I had that question right away of like, okay, it's an apocalypse, the army, they say, but like someone had to have figured that out in that time. That's not a hard thing. And then the fact that you can just blow their heads off. I get that they're fast and powerful, but it didn't seem. It seemed like
it opened its armor. You
Oh,
see on
that's
the
it.
notes that it
Okay,
has
that
like
makes
armor
sense.
plating. It's
Okay.
like a thing that's been consistent.
That
and when
makes sense,
he went
then.
ape shit, like his face opened.
and then
with
she
all the
blew
pla-
its head
yeah.
off. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I
I'm
also-
surprised that no scientist figured out that, hey, this thing which relies entirely on sound, it's got sensitive hearing. Maybe we should attack it with sound waves.
But no, that choice made sense to me because, like, if you're trying to avoid sound creatures, like, I feel like if you're afraid, the last thing you're gonna try is
Yeah,
sound.
I mean, people who are trying to solve the problem.
feel like the army.
People who are in charge of killing things and not running away.
Well, I mean, you have to take that with, like you said, like Dave was saying about suspension of disbelief. Like in any of these movies that involve where the apocalypse isn't a virus, it's like a creature of some kind. You have to like accept the fact that the army wouldn't just destroy it immediately because it would.
Right.
Like you run that thing, I guarantee you hit that thing with a tank. No amount of armor plating is going to save it from
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like.
And
it's just I don't know.
I guess the thing is for me, what it came down to for me was it's all these questions, all this, the characters being dumb, and the problem is I couldn't. If I found the movie frightening, I would have accepted all that more. But when it came down to the scary stuff, it was just jump scares. The creatures looked pretty good, but they didn't look that original to me, and it was mostly just jump scares. It was just loud noise creature.
I disagree.
I
That it
also
was
disagree.
mostly jump scares.
It was
that was
mostly-
existential dread.
There was a lot of, I mean, that whole sequence where Emily Blunt's hiding from it, that's not a jump scare. That sequence in the silo, that's not a jump scare. It's drawing out a situation.
I guess it's what bugs me is that those situations were done because of something I considered stupid.
Sure.
And so I was just like the silo. I liked see, that's the thing. I do like a lot of the moments that they create, like her in the water. It's just why they got there bugged me so much. Like the silo really bugged me because it was just like someone typing on a keyboard and then he falls through. I don't know.
It's the kind of thing that happens. I mean,
I guess, but they go up on that silo. They show that he goes up there all the time and lights that fire.
Latch is eventually gonna.
Yeah, I guess
hold
so.
up if
It's
you're
just
standing on it.
right there
Why
in
didn't
that
they
moment.
have
I
extra
don't know.
fuel around those signals? I saw nothing. I saw no wood. I saw nothing. Why rely on lighter fluid when you could, burn actual wood and keep the
Well, no, we see him burn the first signal fire by burning his child's memories. So we know that there's.
No.
Super
the
dark.
The kids.
Yeah, I know.
There was no fuel there, and they weren't there that long. They weren't there all night.
I imagine you'd want to like stockpile your fuel somewhere safer. So, like, if it's an apocalypse,
The beacon.
Well, you might need it for other things too.
you might need it for other things, and if it's out there on the beacon, like people might take it. You can't be up on top of the beacon all the time to protect it.
But you don't want to carry wood up to the beacon, whenever you need to use the beacon. You want wood there, and that way you can, because there's trees everywhere. There's no shortage of wood. They could have had wood wherever they needed it, and they should have had one on every single beacon. They should have kept better eye on their kids. They should have used any kind of... I was terrified, though, so that's the only reason that I do like the movie, because it did succeed in scaring me. Not that that's actually very hard to do, but I was irritated a lot by the parents and the choices that they made, because they did definitely get their kids killed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I understand this movie is popular and it has good reviews. I have a lot of trouble if the characters aren't doing... Like, if I'm sitting there just thinking of all the ways I would have done it better than the characters... when I watched that scene with the baby and the tension in the water, I kept just sort of thinking like, well, this is what you get for having a baby. Like I was
Toss him that baby.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point, you don't even know. You haven't even named the baby.
yeah.
So just
See, I was saying give that baby a tit. That'll be...
Oh yeah,
that'll
you
keep the baby quiet.
glue that
Yeah.
baby to a tit.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep. Should have used more tits.
Yeah.
Would have saved you from the quiet monsters.
But like stupid parents, I think, like I sort of feel like you just need to accept that not all people in movies are terribly smart people, because like,
Right. If they did everything.
if they did everything perfectly,
and
it wouldn't
intelligently,
work.
there would be no suspense.
Yeah.
Right. It just... The movie went out of its way to tell us how many days had passed. And that made me realize two things, which was, okay, they had this baby while this was going on, because it's been like 400 and something days, and they didn't prepare very well. And then she's like a couple weeks from her due date, and Jim Halpert's like, I'm going to go catch some fish.
Well, the eldest girl was supposed to stay there, and he had to go get food for the family. Like, I don't...
Yeah, that wasn't his mistake.
And she was early.
I feel like they could have planned. I mean, I planned like, I don't know. I guess to me, it felt like I get the idea that, okay, they've been living here for a while. They're getting sort of used to it. But they just didn't seem nearly as careful
Yeah.
as I would have been. And it's a lot of horror movies when someone goes and does something dumb, I'll forgive it because the person in the movie doesn't know they're in a horror movie. Like if someone goes out into a dark area and we haven't met the villain yet or anything, but the entire point of this was that this is a family who fucked up once and their kid died. And I kind of expected them to be like really anal retentive, like really, really, really careful, because of they established right away that they weren't careful for one moment, and a kid gets fucking scooped up by a running monster.
Kid gets smoked.
I feel like a monster, but I giggled when that happened, mainly because the monster just like ran by, like, whoop, got your kid.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing that I would have accepted that a lot more if the father had shown himself to be a dick, but he was really nice, and so is the mother. So why didn't they have that talk with their daughter sooner? Why did they have to wait 400 days to have that talk?
Which talk?
The whole "I loved you, I've always loved you" thing. Like she's blamed herself the whole time, and the little brother doesn't tell dad until like, again, 400 days later. This should have been a thing that happened in the first month after the death.
But then you're still expecting these to be perfect parents.
Well, no, I'm expecting them to be parents. I mean, it doesn't take that. It's not hard to figure out that the girl who gave the kid the toy you told them that he couldn't have because it was dangerous might blame herself for his death when he activates that toy.
Well, in that scene, we see that everybody blames himself for the kid's death.
Of course.
In different ways. And it's like, man, I've gone years with unspoken problems with my family.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that unbelievable that didn't happen.
The thing that was unbelievable for me about that scene was that this little 8-year-old boy is the most self-aware and generally emotionally aware person, like, in the entire movie. Like, he's very that kid shouldn't understand complex human emotions to the extent that he does, to be able to pull his dad aside and be like, hey, your other kid is having an emotional problem. Maybe handle it.
Why, and I'm sure there's an actual answer to this, I just missed it. Why didn't he want his daughter to go in the basement?
That's a goddamn good question.
Because he tells her not to, and I thought there was a reason for that. And then when she goes down there, he's just like working on the hearing aids.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there isn't a reason. I just didn't understand what the reason was.
I understood that. It was that the daughter was getting frustrated with him for building those implants, the cochlear things.
But again, why would that prevent him from? Why would that make her not allowed to go into the basement?
He doesn't want her to see that he's obsessing over it, because it clearly makes her upset that he keeps trying to make these things.
Okay, yeah,
but
I guess.
If he had shared that process with her, maybe it wouldn't. I mean, this goes back to them fucking up as parents. And I guess if we kind of look at that more closely and we embrace it, I know that as a husband and wife, they're married in real life, and that really showed through for me because I'm married and I noticed the little cues, and that was really cool. So that made the mistakes they made as parents, I guess, a little more, especially now that I've heard Jane's point of view, a little more understandable. But they seemed like such good parents, and yet they made such stupid mistakes, and they didn't. Like, they were really, you saw them go out of their way to make their kids try to feel safe and loved and all that. They were physically affectionate with them. They were, they seemed like kind people. And you would think that, I mean, because this whole thing, the whole thing happened in part anyway, because Emily Blunt was alone. And she was alone because her daughter apparently had never been told that it wasn't her fault.
Her daughter was also a 13-year-old angry kid.
I wasn't mad at the daughter for running away. I was more mad at the mother for not noticing for like a while, it seemed.
Yeah.
Well, teenage girls disappear
I don't.
For a while.
When he's bringing the kid to the waterfall and he doesn't want to go, and then his daughter really wants to go, and he's like, "No, you stay here," and then she storms off, and then he says to the mother, like, "Next time." It is that. It does. It's like in a romantic comedy or anything where the characters aren't saying the right things and it frustrates you to watch. And I know that's sort of the point, but it just didn't do it for me, where I'm just like, man, you could have explained that better to your daughter, and then she just stormed off, or you could have taken her, or like.
Well, no.
But again, I know.
I'm going to defend this choice.
I know these are character moments that are subjective to the person watching it. It all seemed kind of dumb drama to me.
I just realized something. That it actually was a stupid choice. Why leave the girl who cannot hear with a mother who is about to have a baby?
Because
Why not
she
take her
can't
with
hear.
you? What?
It made sense not to bring her to that waterfall because she can't hear. The special thing about the waterfall is that the dad and the child can talk to each other.
But that was later. That was later. I think the point was he said he was teaching the boy to fish, and that's important too. But also taking care of your about to pop wife is a little bit more urgent. He didn't even really show him what to do with the fish, at least that we saw. So why not take the girl and leave the boy? Because the boy could be of more help. The boy would know when she was going to have a baby. He would hear her.
I mean, she's also a liability going out in the woods because she can't hear anything.
At that point in the movie, it had been established that he had a very fraught relationship with his daughter. So I imagine if he brought her to this waterfall, and the very special thing about the waterfall is that you can talk to each other and you can hear each other,
I don't think
then that's like...
I don't. I mean, they were just going fishing. It was never established that the reason they went was to go to the waterfall. That just seemed to be a thing.
But that was
happened.
true of the river, too. Like, you can make small sounds and the creatures can't hear you. You can talk there.
But the point was not to talk, and they didn't talk at the river. They
I
caught
thought they did.
fish. No, he did sign language about small sounds being okay as long as there's big sounds, and then they talked at the waterfall, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They should have just lived near the river.
They should have just lived near the
Shack
waterfall.
near the waterfall.
Little shack near the waterfall. They had so much time.
I know.
Become weird river people.
Yeah.
Just live on a boat.
Food's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And
And again, yes, sure, the creatures can bust through doors. Still should close the doors for the purposes of sound, muffling sound a little bit.
I
And
don't
just,
understand that because the door makes a lot of sound when you open and close it. Like the
Oh,
door.
that's a good point,
The door
yeah.
provides you zero protection from tank spider monsters from space, and it just makes more noise when you're opening and closing them.
Are they
so there's
from-
no point.
Did they establish that they're from space?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
It's in
did?
it's in the newspaper clippings.
Oh, okay, yeah. That
Yeah, I
makes
sort
sense.
of wanted to pause on those newspaper clippings
Yeah.
because a lot of them I feel like explained a bit about like maybe
Yeah.
the army had tried. There was one headline that said "You are on your own," and I wanted to read the subtitle there just to
I
see
think they
what the
kept
background was.
printing, And
Yeah.
they kept printing magazines and
There
newspapers.
were
Which
so
is
many.
noisy as fuck.
Right, they kept them printing presses running at the New York Post
Right.
right up until the end.
Those are some dedicated people.
That's dumb.
Well, it's the New York Post. It's kind of a dumb newspaper.
Leave it
See,
to the New
okay.
York Post.
And this is, I guess, this is the thing, is this movie has like a 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes.
96.
And it's well shot.
It is.
But I don't find, like this stuff like the newspaper bit, just realizing like, that's a little silly. Like, it's kind of just a silly monster movie. It's well shot, but I wasn't impressed by it, the way it was shot. Like, it was definitely well shot. But there was no moment in it that was like, wow, that was a really good shot, or that was a really good sequence. Like, again, the
I think
monsters
the
look-
opening is shot well,
yeah,
like in a memorable way.
yeah. I mean, that
like-
shot of the kid getting swooped up.
Well, not that, but like the way that it shows them walking in, like it's letting you know something's about to happen. Not just with the lingering on the batteries, but the way it's shot. It starts with like a profile. They're walking in line to the right, and it takes the littlest kid is off screen for a very long time, and he's sort of dawdling in the back, and then it cuts to a shot of them like it's a crane shot coming down through the bridge, and it frames them in this kind of ominous way. It sort of looks like gallows, and the way that the kid ends up in that shot has him kind of up near the top of it. And then it cuts to a rear shot of them crossing the bridge, and the kid comes up real slow. Like it
Right.
takes him so long to show up in the shot that like I had to count the people a couple of times. Like, wait, where's the kid? And then he kind of slowly pushes in the back. Like, I thought that whole sequence was
Yeah.
well shot and well put together.
It's a well shot movie. It just, I mean, Jim did a good job.
Go,
But
Jim.
it didn't stand out, I guess, to me. Again, I'm not. I don't want to be angry at the way it was shot, because I do think, yeah, he's did a good job, and I'm excited to see other things he direct. I think I'm more just upset with the screenplay, with the story, and I guess the way it was shot again didn't make up for that. So I started about the time she was dealing with the baby in the basement and stuff. I started to feel like I was giving the movie a wrap it up sign.
And,
Started playing the music.
and boy, did it. It just stopped right there.
I liked it.
And I wish they had done more with the girl, with the fact that she was already deaf. It would have been neat to talk, like, to have her be more, I don't know, to see her family in a, to be better at noticing things with her family, like, because this is how she has had to communicate the whole time, and now they're all communicating with each other the way they have to communicate with her. And
I think
just
that's
wish
very
they'd done
common,
more with
though.
that. But the thing I did like about the movie the most is definitely that the people felt real, and I guess their idiotic mistakes were a part of that. The people felt real, the marriage felt real,
Right. Like, I think like I think that's part of the point of the film. I feel like it. Like, it's, you have a collection of imperfect people, and like in a situation like that, what's the thing that's going to get you in trouble is you're going to fuck up and do something wrong. Like, you're going to make a dumb mistake. That's when you're working like certain kinds of jobs, like where there's a serious risk of injury or something like that. That's when it happens. Is it something that you've done thousands of times, you do it every day, and it's just it becomes rote, and that's when you fuck it up, because you stop paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, it struck me that things did seem to, they got careless toward the end. It definitely seemed that way to me.
Well, and then like the last like 45, the second half of the movie is just escalation.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
everything gets worse on top of worse.
Everything goes
It's
wrong
awful.
at once. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to something you said, I feel like I would have been super annoyed with the movie if the deaf character had like tropey deaf person superpowers.
Oh no, that's not what I meant.
Oh,
I meant
okay,
like an
okay.
emotional thing. I meant I was wishing that she would have had a better emotional understanding of her parents.
I see what you mean.
Because she was deaf and because they were communicating with her on a level that she was used to already. And so I was thinking maybe she would have a better understanding of what they were trying to communicate to her than her brother, but that I was
Right.
wrong. The brother really got it.
No, yeah, I agree with you. Is that, and I don't know if I'm mad at the film for this, but I did expect like the kid who can hear to be the trouble kid, to be the kid who's like can't stand this, but that kid was the one who was extremely compliant and everything.
He was also the most paranoid about making sound.
Yeah,
Right, he was the one that was terrified all the time.
yeah, that's
of
true.
Every sound.
No, that's
He was
true.
the
I'm not
smartest
saying
one in the family, I think.
Yeah, and the fact that that's
Scaredest.
reversed, I wonder if that is on purpose. Is that the kid who can't hear is less scared because she's not experiencing like the fear of noise as much as the other kid or something like that. But it's also just because she's a shitty teenager,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Man, I think that would be more because the reason she's a liability is she never has any idea how much noise she's making.
Yeah,
Or like what's going on around her. So I feel like she would probably be like pretty paranoid all the time, but I don't know.
yeah. Well, it's like there's people who can't feel pain, like who have that. They're just constantly like checking your body because you never know when you've bitten your lip or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like it. Yeah, I would be if I couldn't hear and there were scary monsters that would kill me if I made noise. Everything I do, I'd be terrified.
Yeah, I'd be using my eyes,
Yeah.
everything constantly.
Yeah, I'd be just wrapping myself in like pillows and teddy bears.
Yeah.
Just walking around in a suit of stuffed animals. I wish there were some. I mean, I really liked the movie. I thought it was a very simple story that was told well. And I thought I thought all the moments of suspense were creative, like the grain silo. I was like, oh shit, that's terrifying.
Yeah, there are other things than monsters that can kill you.
Yeah, just the way the escalation was done in some of the sequences, like Emily Blunt alone in the house and everything. The one thing I wish the movie would have done is more variety in the things that could happen to create noise instead of it's always just somebody knocking something over.
Yeah, dropping something.
Yes, because there are other things. I wish they'd used things that we don't think about every day. 'Cause
Yeah.
we do think about knocking shit over. You know.
I don't.
Yeah. I never did.
No, again, okay,
I'm
okay.
very clumsy, so I do all the time.
Okay, so I'm still on this. The raccoons made a shitload of sound, and they shit her off, and they kill one of the raccoons. So they're like right there. And then again, she steps on the nail and drops the thing. It makes, I would say, less sound, and they're like coming right in the house at that point. Is it the escalation? Is it them like? Because why didn't they come in when the raccoons were there? Like that was a hell of a lot of sound.
Yeah.
I guess
Also,
because they made the kill.
maybe.
Yeah, also-
'Cause they when they took the kid, the rest of the family lived. They just ghosted that kid, and then they
Right.
seemed to leave.
Yeah, and then they just bailed. I mean, we don't really see what happens
Yeah.
right after. Oh yeah, how'd she get that kid's toy?
Oh shit.
She
I
just
assume
picked
she
it up.
dropped it. That kid
The
dropped
kid
it when
dropped
that
it?
thing hit him like a freight train.
Also, okay, so the most heartbreaking little detail in this movie for me was that while they're in the convenience store at the very beginning,
Right.
Jim gives the shitty
Halpert.
teen. Yes, Jim Halpert gives the shitty teen the little snippers that she uses to disable the sound on the
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and later in the film she uses them to disable the sound so that she can turn it on and put it next to her brother's little.
That was real sad.
It was so sad. It was so heartbreaking. Like you had the solution the whole time.
And I'm impressed that little guy knew how to put batteries in the right way because they were out and then they were in. Also, when does a toy come with batteries included? That's impressive.
That was a good point. Oh, were they included? Were they just at the?
He just took him off the yeah. I mean,
They were
Oh
they
yeah,
were
he took them
inside
out.
and
Yeah,
he
you're
took them
right.
out. And then
Yeah.
the kid put them back in.
Well,
I
some
mean,
of them do.
theoretically, he could have gotten the batteries from somewhere else in the store and put them in. Like,
Well, no,
It was a very general
they sell
convenience
they
store.
sell the toys that you like through the plastic, you press it and it makes some noise. Like some do come with
yeah,
batteries.
some do come with batteries.
He took it off the shelf. It was in there. Like he didn't put them in the first time. But I guess I'm just impressed that a kid that young knew how to put the batteries in.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if you want to
Last-
like blow your mind. Like kids with iPhones are,
Oh yeah.
they figure that shit out
Yeah.
super fast.
Yeah, kids are terrible. They can go. off
Yeah, that's the main thing. That main takeaway from this movie for me is that kids are a goddamn liability
Yeah.
in every situation.
Seriously, don't have.
Yeah,
an
especially not in an
apocalypse.
apocalypse. What kind of future do you expect that kid to have also? You know, just stop. There's plenty of ways. I mean, we don't have any kids. We've been married for a long time.
Yeah, it's avoid. I mean, it's just protection. Just have protection.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, it's the apocalypse. You can't make noise. You don't want a baby. It's the same. The Walking Dead had the same problem, but I think, and that
She
was
was already pregnant, right?
yeah. I think she might have already been pregnant. Is how they. And
It
that's
doesn't
the-
matter that baby
that
gets
was
smoked in it.
that was the thing. Again, this is they said the amount of days. I don't know why they kept saying the amount of days.
Just to give you an idea of how long it's been that
Right.
way.
But I would have actually been able to, like, if they didn't do that, I could have just been like, oh, maybe she got pregnant before this all happened. And that would have made sense. Like, that's a cool,
Well, yeah, and
that's a
it's-
cool idea
thing
to me.
deal with. It's
Exactly.
Like, fuck, I'm pregnant.
It's not
How are we gonna do this?
It's not a bad premise to deal with. It's just they got pregnant after the apocalypse. And again, a lot of the stuff in this movie isn't a bad idea. It's a simple premise. It's just don't make noise or the creatures will kill you. But the situations they got themselves into, I couldn't buy. And I do agree with you, Tom, that they didn't get too creative about
that's-
ways to make noise.
That's yeah. I mean, the pregnancy certainly wasn't planned. I mean, you figure they would be.
Careful.
I don't know.
I think they would have.
I don't know. But yeah, the title card showing the amount of days passed is nitpicky, but there were enough like context clues within the film that we can infer. Okay, it hasn't been super long since
Yeah.
this. We're far along, like maybe a few years into this, but it hasn't been super long.
I have a theory on that. It might have been a creative thing to basically say, hey guys, months don't matter anymore, years don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what year it is, what month it is, because civilization is gone. Maybe that's what they were trying to say.
They were marking it in
So you're
days.
just counting the days. Yeah,
You could have showed a character doing that too, like just
One more
setting
day
notches.
alive. Yeah.
that's a detail I liked when in the beginning when he does the signal fire and he looks around and you can see all the other signals.
I
Oh, yeah.
loved that. I wished. Oh yeah, I would have loved to meet more, people other than that one guy.
We
whose
did
wife
very
died.
briefly meet
Yeah.
some other characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He makes the funniest little Muppet face right before he
Yeah.
screams.
He
man
really
face.
did.
Yeah, he does.
Oh man.
I wish everybody listening could have seen that face you just made. It was
See the
very
film.
true to the film.
You'll see the face. You see the film and then imagine me doing that face because I did it perfectly.
It was
We
perfect.
can take a picture of that face.
No, it's only for the people in this room.
But yeah, the fact that there were other people lighting beacons within a couple acres of this family made the noise thing make sense to me. Because if this is
Oh, they're going to be in that area, right?
they're going to be
Yeah.
in that area, and
Right.
like maybe the amount of time that they show up varies because there are other targets in that area. So maybe it took them a little extra time after the raccoons because they were chomping on some old people.
That's a good idea.
I wonder what that lady did. That old lady.
Yeah.
I mean, she just rip a real loud fart.
She might have
outside.
gotten the hiccups.
She was-
Imagine getting the hiccups in
Imagine
this.
taking like a ferocious dump.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
The ones that make
Oh
noise.
no!
It's weird because everybody makes noise. The creatures like swoop them up and like gobble them, right? Was there any other corpses?
Just the one old lady that you see.
Yeah.
And
So
they
what
didn't
she
eat her,
taste?
They just
she,
disemboweled
Yeah,
her.
she must have tasted bad or something.
Maybe they don't eat them. Maybe they just kill. Because she wasn't eaten. She just was disemboweled.
Yeah.
That raccoon didn't get eaten either.
It got splattered,
That raccoon got smushed.
smushed like a giant
like,
bug. There's like a splatter on that too. Yeah. It was wet.
Yeah.
There's a couple parts. A couple parts I giggled at. The kid giggled at the kid getting murdered. I actually giggled at the silo because it was like they were fighting and it was more stuff happening and then they just fucking fall in a silo.
So we've learned here
It's like,
Dave
oh,
is a monster.
No, it's
But
just
Anytime
it's just
children are in danger,
it just
it's
kept
really
escalating.
Dave's cup of tea.
yeah.
I I really did like the silo because one of my favorite things if I do watch an apocalypse movie again is seeing all the other things that can kill you, not just monsters. I mean, we
Right.
come inches from death every day, just driving and stuff like that.
Yeah, this movie was it really stressed the importance of silo safety, which was good. I think it was a good set piece. It just seemed gratuitous at the moment. Like it was like, oh, these people have enough to fucking deal with. This kid falls into a silo. It just made me giggle.
You also, if I had been, again, this is just another thing. Of course, I might not have done this because this is a terrible situation and we don't always think with our heads on in terrible situations, but it would have been cool to use those silos for noise generation, because sound travels through solid objects much quicker and much more efficiently than through air, and so you could have made like a gong. You could have turned one of those into a giant gong.
Right, or again, why didn't they just put up speakers? Is that so hard? Is that not an intuitive
they fucked
thing?
up the power. If you notice, I actually asked Tom during the movie, why is it that every time they come near it fucks with the power? And then when it died, we saw that the power came back on. So something they do messes with power.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Maybe they tried the speaker thing and it didn't work.
Of course, it would only work once, too, because then they would smash that speaker.
Or, yeah, I guess. I was thinking, or if you figure out a way to simulate the idea of the river, it's just have a constant amount of sound. Or like, in a case of emergency, like just start
that
blasting
explains the
sound.
printing press.
The what?
That explains them printing the newspaper.
Oh, you're
that's
right.
Just constant noise.
It's just constant noise, yeah.
Printing press would be a really safe
I
place
mean,
to
it's still...
Just keep making them papes.
Yeah. It's still...
Hide out in the New York Post is the safest place in the city.
But again, like, it sort of makes sense to me to avoid doing that because, like, then they're just...
But then they get used to it after a while. I know it's like... I know it would be very dangerous at first. But I think of it the way as if you're doing it constantly, then it's like the river, where they're not all crowded around the river. They just understand, like, okay. Or again, in a case of an
few
emergency...
days before they figured out there wasn't anything at the river,
No,
must
they'd
have
be...
been hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
They're just, like, splashing around.
Just trying to murder
There's
the
something
river.
here. Trying to murder the waterfall.
I guess we don't know what sort of cognitive ability the monsters have either, though. Like, maybe they don't learn.
Yeah, they don't use tools, and I'm wondering how the hell they got here.
Meteor.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Such a
I figured...
bullshit explanation for
It's all I need.
Yeah.
It's a silly
I
monster
didn't
movie.
need anything more than,
'Cause-
they fell out of space.
No,
Yeah,
I do,
no.
because a shotgun to the face kills them, but they can fall through our atmosphere and burn.
Well, because of the armor. I could see that.
Jesus, but that's like...
Maybe they were spores on the meteor. I don't know.
Yeah.
who knows?
I think of that as like Alien, where it's like, okay, this thing isn't piloting a ship, but it just sort of just clings on to something, or
Yeah,
it finds a way to survive.
I'm okay to have not even had that. Like, I don't need to know where they came from.
Yeah. These are all things I can accept.
Yeah, that's true. I would have been fine without knowing where they came from. It actually kind of makes it worse to know that they came from a freaking meteor. I hate that trope. But I think...
Well,
yeah,
it just said meteor fell, so it could have been like maybe they were underground creatures, which would...
Okay.
That makes sense for why they would be blind.
This is okay. I guess this is.
Maybe the meteor just woke them up from beneath the earth. I don't know.
I don't want to make this comparison because it's definitely a better movie. But how is this much different than Cloverfield and the Cloverfield stuff?
Oh, I've never seen it. You have to talk about it without me.
First of all, it's not found footage.
Yes. I would argue that the
that's a big
characters
deal.
are just
It's
as
not
silly.
a mystery box.
It's not a mystery box. That's true.
It didn't make me motion sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, all right. I'm talking about, I guess, story. I guess the noise element really does add something to it.
It's
It's just dangerously close to me. The creatures
I
look
think
kind of
it's
Cloverfieldy.
a little. Yeah, they have that lobster
the
look,
comet
that crab
thing,
look to them.
like,
I thought they looked like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things.
Yeah, kind of.
They did.
I think the fact that it's focused on a single family, so you have
Yeah.
a very small cast of characters that you get to see them be all emotional and stuff, so you care if they get eaten or not. Like, I didn't want anybody to get killed.
this definitely feels like the better version of Cloverfield. Like what Cloverfield had it been made by someone talented, or like one of the, like, You know what I mean? Like 10 Cloverfield Lane, because it's definitely like better made, a better version of aliens, monster aliens that look that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane and not Cloverfield, like those are two very different movies.
Yeah, they're very different.
Like 10 Cloverfield
I just mean the
think.
tone, I guess.
Oh,
Like,
well,
this feels like it's from an alternate universe where they made a good Cloverfield sequel.
I didn't mind 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I thought it was a
mind
pretty sweet movie until the aliens showed up
Yeah.
at the end. I was like, oh, this is a really awesome Hitchcock movie. And then, nope, it's monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mind the monsters at the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I thought it was fun. It was gratuitous, but it was like
It was just
it was schlocky.
such an
and,
obvious
like,
reshoot.
yeah. Well,
Yeah. So, yeah, that's this film.
Yeah.
Anybody have any final thoughts?
I think people should go see it. It's obviously well received. And I knew coming out of it that I was probably going to be the only person who was like, man, that didn't do anything for me. So I think it's going to do something for a lot of people. I think people are going to really like it, and it deserves to be liked, I'd say. But it just didn't do it for me.
And for those of you who are, if you're like me and you're a complete wuss and horror movies make you, hide inside as much of the next person beside you as possible, you can definitely make it through this movie. This is a movie that even if you're scared of horror, you can sit through this and you won't pass out or anything like that.
yeah. I still liked it. I was stressed out. I like flawed characters that make mistakes. So I really liked this movie.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
If you hate cliffhanger endings like I do, you'll be angry at the end.
Oh, I didn't think that was a cliffhanger.
I thought it was
at
a
all.
perfect ending, yeah.
That was a great ending.
I felt like it was the climax that the deaf girl finally reached some kind of redemption, and then boop, credits.
You know what's going to happen, though.
Do we?
Yeah, there's only one way that can play out.
Well, there's two ways, but
Yeah.
I like the ambiguity of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems more definite that they're going to smoke those two monsters, but
It's not.
I
knows?
sort of, at a certain point, I knew that there wasn't going to be the plot
no
wasn't going to be
clean way to
resolved.
end. Yeah, there's no way to resolve
The army wasn't going to come
Yeah.
rolling up and be like, everything's safe now. So I knew it had to end in an ambiguous kind of way, and
No.
I thought that was as good as any ending for that moment. That was probably the best way to end.
If I'd
this.
written that ending, I would have had. I might not have shown the actual battle, but I'll tell you, I would have had the deaf girl down in the basement working on those things, working on improving it, continuing her father's work, because she could be close to him that way, and she's finally allowed to be in the basement. And I would have enjoyed like a pull away shot of her just using a soldering iron or whatever.
But Marina, now you're writing a sequel to this movie.
No,
And,
it's all I want at
and
the end.
let's all cross our fingers that there's never a sequel to this movie.
Well, no, that's just how I want it to end. I want it to be her being constructive, because she's spent the whole movie being destructive. And I think that would have been a really nice ending.
she did. She figured out to put her hearing aid to the microphone and turn the gain all the way up.
And destroy again. I just would have liked to see her creating something, and because it was all about how the boy was going to have to take care of the mother when she was old and gray and toothless and all that stuff. And that's part of what made the girl so angry, is because she felt so useless, and this would have been her starting to being like, okay, I know my place in this family now.
But we got that shot. That was the very last shot of the movie. The mother and the daughter giving each other a look, and the mother with the shotgun and the daughter with the sound, and they had this unspoken understanding, like, okay, we can take care of ourselves now.
Man, the moment
End movie. It
all
was
Jim
great.
had to do was he should have died fucking months ago. Because the moment he died, they let her into the basement, and she was immediately like, "Oh, I figured this out."
Yeah.
And yeah, he should have just died. He should that would have solved everything. Shame on you, Jim.
What a dick. All right.
Jerk.
I think we're done here.
Yeah. Where can we find you guys on the internets? Do you have anything you'd like to plug? A Twitter?
Sure. You can find me, Marina Reimann, at Bisho no Marina. It's Japanese.
You should probably
Smiling
spell it.
Marina. BISHOUNO Marina, like the boat dock. And you can find me on playing games with these guys on Gamefully Unemployed on Twitch. And I'm about to start a webcomic called It Beats Arson with Adam Weirs.
Nice.
You can find me, Jane Addams, at Cold Fashioned on Twitter. I also do Gamefully Unemployed every once in a while, playing some games. That's about it. I'm not an interesting internet personality, but you can totally follow me anyway.
That is a lie. She's so interesting.
She's a maniac.